Welcome to AOL. You've got post.
Welcome. You've got mail. Our activities certainly expanded. It's very widely published in the news that, when I was charged with, accessing LexisNexis's network, accessing T-Mobile stuff and various other companies. So yeah, we branched out. I couldn't exactly tell you like what caused that. I think it was more like probably like growing up. So, look at this, right? I'm age 15, I'm a teenager. Cell phones are out, but new cell phones are coming out, like the T-Mobile Sidekick, for instance, which I know a lot of people remember, which is like the first cell phone that was kind of like, had AOL Instant Messenger on it. You could access the internet and stuff.
Full keyboard and like it flipped around. It was a super sweet phone.
Yeah, that was dope. I was so happy to get one of those. But I think part of growing up, it was like I wanted a cell phone. Like a cell phone was out. And I'm going to school. I'm in high school at the time. And the AOL stuff. I loved being online. I loved being in the cyber world and doing these things. So to get a cell phone, for instance, and be connected to the web while I'm in class, I thought that was cool. I'm like, oh man, I got to talk to my hacker friends while I'm in school doing work. So yeah, so cell phones obviously became a thing. I wanted one, and we all wanted one. So 2004, the fast forward to like the end of the year, go to like November, December. My dad asked me what I wanted for Christmas, and I had seen a commercial for the T-Mobile Sidekick, and it was like $300-400. We didn't have a lot of money growing up, so it was a big thing for me to ask, but I did. And long story short, my dad got me the T-Mobile Sidekick for Christmas. So December '04. So although I'm going to use December because I remember this time. It was like I just remember it because of like getting that phone and like what I was doing around then. The carding ramped up a lot. Like I got this T-Mobile Sidekick, and so like I just mentioned, I wanted to text my friends and use AOL and Instant Messenger from class, but not all of my friends had these phones, so I would go online and I carded sidekicks. I carded like 5 of them. I gave them out to like my closest friends, and we carded some SIM cards. So we're carding these things. We have phones and SIM cards, but we don't have a way to pay for it. We're thinking like, well, you can't like just use a credit card and turn it on. You got to go in the store and they got to activate it. So we're thinking like, well, how the hell are we going to do that? So we're on these conferences and Bing, okay, T-Mobile Sidekick. Let's just social engineer T-Mobile. So it's pretty obvious what we had to do. We just kind of just sticking to the. This was me. I should say I a lot more than we, but we're on a conference, together. We're all friends. That's I guess the way I'm speaking here. But I called up a T-Mobile store. I called one in California because we would take. I'm in Massachusetts, Eastern Standard Time. My dad, I obviously had gotten raided. He was a little, skeptical on what I was doing. Wanted to make sure I was in bed. So very frequently I would wake up really late when everybody's sleeping, get on the conference call, and that's when we would kind of like screw around. So it's late, 10 o'clock at night. All the T-Mobile stores are closed. So that's why we look up one in California, look up the number, call them, social engineering. Basically, we called and said, hey, this is John from T-Mobile Corporate over in Bellevue, Washington. How you doing this evening? Oh, I'm doing good. So we just hit him with the same AOL script. Like, we understand it. There was some issues when you were activating accounts today. Do you have any issues with your tools? And they said, no. So we're going in blind because with AOL, we kind of knew a lot because there's a lot of people in the scene. But T-Mobile, we didn't know anything. So the first call was basically me asking him, so what's the name of your tools that you guys are doing right now? I mean, I know they upgraded them a certain place. What's the tool? And the guy tells me, oh, it's called, we have iCam. I said, you activate phones with the iCam? He said, no, we use Watson for activation. I said, okay. Pretty much, I got a little bit of the info, and I just told him, okay, I think this might have been a mistake. There's no issue. So we hang up. Look up another store, call them. Now we know they use iCam and Watson. So we hit them with the, hey, we're calling from T-Mobile Corporate in Bellevue, Washington. We got a report that you're having issues activating customer cell phones with Watson. Oh, no, I haven't had any issues with that. Oh, okay. Well, we just want to verify that the system's okay. Just, we don't want a customer to come in there and you can't activate the phone, then you got them hung up. They'll be waiting in line, and, oh, yeah, I understand. What do you need? Could you just give us, what's the username that you log in with? Gave us his username. Asked for his password. The guy says there is no password.
What?
So I said, well, when you go to the login screen, it asks for a username and password. Now, we've already got this info. We got it when I asked him on the prior call with the URLs. We had it. I went to it, saw the sign-in screen. I said, "Well, you need a username and password though. So what are you typing in for the password?" He said, "It's the same thing." I'm like, "Oh, right, yeah. I forgot. Okay, yeah, the username is the password. I apologize for that. Yeah, I'm just
Oh wow.
yeah." So it was that was kind of funny because later on when we're like when like we'd activate certain amount of phones, the password would get changed. They would shut the account off or whatever. So it became very easy to get new customer service reps logins because we didn't want to ask for the password. We just say, "What's your username?" People want to give the username out very easily compared to a password. I will say I don't believe we ever had a time when we three-way T-Mobile and they said no. I believe like every time we had called them, it was just, but it wasn't much. We just needed a couple usernames and we were fine. So didn't take much. But so, like I said, I carded these phones, carded these SIM cards, and now I'm active. I'm just looking at people on whitepages.com and we're just like typing in random names and we're activating these phones into those people. So now, like all of my buddies and stuff, we're all online at school, texting each other in class. And so it was that's the whole thing about the cell phone drama, and credit card fraud. And now now you're looking at like wire fraud charges. You're not just like computer fraud. This is wire fraud. You're dealing with cell phones and stuff. Not good. Later on, that actually became a charge for. I was actually charged with activating cell phones for my friends. I had like 2 counts of it. So this is December-ish, January-ish. Now my friends are online again. Public record. I was watching TV one day and I saw Paris Hilton doing cell phone commercial for T-Mobile. Of course, the phone was a T-Mobile Sidekick 2. It was like a special edition with all these diamonds on it. And right away, I go over to my computer. I'm like, man, what if she's really got an account? I sign into iCam. I go over to the search screen. I type in Paris Hilton. Click on execute search. It was a Java applet. Little gear spins when you click it. And it said one subscriber found Paris W. Hilton, Burbank, California. And I just said, oh shit, this is under her name? No way. So all right, so this is kind of funky, right? So this is just random, right? I look her up and it's like whatever. So it's almost at the point like, well, what are you gonna do with that? You just have her address or email, phone number. It's not much. So I had found an exploit within T-Mobile's website. Might be a little hard to follow. I'm gonna do my best to explain how this worked for anybody that's kind of like technical or just curious or whatever. So assume you just got a brand new T-Mobile Sidekick, right? You open it up, install get all your apps on, whatever you want to do. So you want to pay your bill from the phone. You want to check your minutes. You want to do all that stuff. So you go to my.tmobile.com and you obviously create an online account. So I had this phone myself. I had noticed that when you opened up the my.tmobile site on this T-Mobile Sidekick, you would type in your phone number and the very next screen would bring you to select a password. I thought that was weird because okay, all I did was go to the site, type a number in, and then I'm at a password screen. I'm like, okay, where's the verification here? So I went on my computer and I went to my.tmobile, did the same thing, put a T-Mobile number in, but it brings me to we just texted you a 4-digit code. So I'm like, all right. So why is my computer wanting a 4-digit code that's texted, but the device doesn't? So I'm curious. I want to know what's going on. I run a web server on my computer. I pick up my phone. I type in the IP address of the web server, and I captured the HTTP headers. Anyone that's looked at that, they know, when you go to a site, it shows the operating system in your browser. So there was basically something in it that said like, this is a danger hip top, basically saying it's a Sidekick device.
Like the user agent?
Yeah. So basically, just that user agent, when you would send that to the T-Mobile site, it would skip over the 4-digit. We want to text you a 4-digit code. So
For anybody could just put that header in and you could set a password.
yes. Now it was only for people that did not register for the service, though. So if you already registered, it would tell you, you already have an account and kick you back to the login screen. So Paris did not. This is contrary to some articles out there. People said that I guessed her password and I reset it. I didn't do neither of those. She did not have an account. So I made it was a Visual Basic program that I made. Basically, you'd put the phone number in the text box, you click the button, and you basically could register and make the password. Made it a lot simple for myself. So yeah, I signed her up. I put her number in. I created a password. and I signed into her My T-Mobile. And for anybody that has a T-Mobile Sidekick device, is very similar to iCloud, where you could look at your personal information like your calendar and notes and photos. So all that stuff's on there. I signed in there. I have a Sidekick, so I'm a little bit familiar with this. So I'm kind of like, all right, I know what I want to look at. I go in there, I see her photos, see her calendar, and all that stuff. And yeah, the photos is kind of what got me like right away. Stop me if you got any questions too. I'm talking a lot here. So I'm logged into her account. I click on photos, and right away it's all like topless photos. There's one of her picture, her topless kissing another girl, pictures of her dog, and all this stuff. And I was sitting at the computer, and I stood up and I said, "What the heck?" I ran into the other room, and I went to get my little brother. I'm like, "Hey, come over here. You got to see this stuff." So we're going back to the laptop. I'm like, dude, this is Paris Hilton's phone, dude. I'm inside the phone. He's looking at it and he's like, dude, what the heck? So we're all like hysterical about this. I'm at the dining room table. I think my dad was out for the evening at a restaurant or something. I'm just like, wow, this is crazy. So with all the hacker friends I have, I'm texting them. Well, I say texting, but it's really like instant messaging. I'm starting to tell them like, yo, dude, look what I got. I tell the real close people. I mean, I didn't spam it, but so basically, like my friend Zach, his handle was Majestic. He helped me set up a website to actually like put her information up there.
Why? But why? I'm curious. Why do that?
It was for real, honestly, and it's embarrassing to say because it's like something that I deeply do regret. Like looking back at it, like it's getting into the account and exploiting it. It's exciting, but the actual like like doing that to somebody, it's I do genuinely feel bad. But the reason based on everything I've learned about myself over the years and just, growing up and stuff, I did it for the rush. I wanted to be, wanted to be important. This was, I remember when we published it on the website, we sent it out to every, we're using search engines to see like how many press are picking it up. And we have a hit counter on the website. I think after a day, that thing went to like, I don't even want to say a day. I think less than a day, man. That thing hit like 900,000, and we're like, "Yo, this is gonna be bad. This is gonna be everywhere." So we're watching the news. I don't recall where I saw it, but it came across my TV screen, and I'm just sitting there like, "Yeah, I did that. Yeah, wow, I'm famous." I'm like, "Oh my gosh." In short, it was for like an adrenaline rush, like maybe the accomplishment feeling. Kind of like, wow, I did something. It's kind of felt, I guess, like an elevated sense or something like that.
Yeah, right. I understand. That makes sense. So I'm gonna get a little bit nerdy here.
Nah, go ahead, man.
But how did your web server handle that many hits? Were you running like a cache on it, or did you have a CDN? Or
So this server that was hosting the Paris stuff, my friend Zach was really like heavy into bots. Like while we're all doing the AOL stuff, he was really heavy into like spamming and things like that. He had this big thing going where he had these bots spreading. Say he has like 10,000 bots. This company was paying him like $50 for every computer he could get some spyware installed on it. So this guy's downloading this shit and making a ton of money. Anyway, I'm going way off topic here, I think, but so he's got all these bots. He's keylogging them all the time, and he keylogged some dude logging into this web server in Korea. Actually, I want to see if it's actually still valid. Let me see sunroad.pe.kr. It's like engraved in my head. Yeah, the actual website is still up. That's funny. So whatever website this is, it still exists. That I guess he stole their login credentials too. So it was a Korean website. The reason that we actually picked Korea is because it was foreign. We didn't want to put it on a USA site because we're thinking like, well, this is going to get a lot of traffic. It's probably going to get pulled down really fast. So the Korean site, we're thinking, it's foreign. It's way out in the Pacific or whatever. So that's why. I mean, we didn't buy the web server; it was just stolen. Someone's real website.
so then the forensic trail for this, they I doubt they went to Korea and asked for the web server logs, right? I assume they looked at T-Mobile, right? Like who modified the account, and then the authentication went to ICAM from, was this from your home IP again?
No, I don't believe I was. So when I was accessing T-Mobile stuff, I was using Wi-Fi because back in like 2002, 3, and 4, like people had Wi-Fi with no password on them. So and I had obviously a fancy little antenna that I put in my window and I could kind of like reach people stuff that was up the street. So I'm using Wi-Fi's of my neighbor, and I also had a 2G T-Mobile Edge card. 2G. Oh man, I thought that was so cool back then. Boy, was it slow. It was like dial up.
Wow, that must have been really slow.
Yeah, wicked slow. The edge card was pretty cool though, because I mean it worked anywhere. Yeah, although it was slow, it worked anywhere, and I had access to T-Mobile, so I would do the same thing with the phones. Pop in a SIM card, just activate it, and then whenever it gets shut off, just do it again. So yeah, at this point, I've been rated for AOL. I'm trying to be a little cleaner, but it obviously it didn't work. I didn't know enough back then. I was still making too many mistakes, too many. Like here's something interesting. So when I had actually when I had hacked Paris's phone, I used the Wi-Fi. I should be good for liability purposes. So I used the Wi-Fi of my neighbor that was up the street, and so they raided me. They raided my house. This is now we're in like 2005. Geez, I was gonna try to give you the date. I think it was I don't know, man. I thought it was May. I believe it was May of 2005 when I got raided. But so I get raided in May, and they asked me about Paris, and I denied it. I said I knew nothing about it. I was very evasive. That's the way it was said in the interview, that Mr. Liqueur was evasive when asked about Paris Hilton. I said nothing. I said, I don't know. I had no idea. I heard about it, but it's not me. And it was like 2 days later, I recall looking out my window, and there were like maybe like, I don't know, 4 to 6 of those big black Suburbans or those Expeditions all in front of the house where I believe the Wi-Fi was at.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so I mean, I apologize to whoever that person was, but they obviously got raided because I used their Wi-Fi. Jeez.
So then how do they link it? Like, it was like your MAC address or something?
So here's this is God's honest truth from court papers. I mean, so when I got raided for the AOL thing, there were already wiretaps. The FBI had already got court ordered wiretaps on my AOL Instant Messenger account. Even after I was switching screen names, they were wiretapping me. And that's the thing, is I always use a screen name where everybody could find me. Like AOL was monitoring my stuff along with the FBI, and when I had hacked Paris's phone, I was communicating with other hackers. I was telling them like, "Yo, I just got Paris's photos. Like, yo, check these out." So here I am bragging about the stuff, and this is all going into the records, getting fed right to the feds. So it was like everything that I was doing, man. It was kind of just like building up. Like,
Right. So the FBI, they used a program called Carnivore at the time, and it was essentially packet capture, and they could scope it to an IP address. They probably scoped the Carnivore program and capture all the packets from your home IP.
I should. There's something else I wanted to mention too. So, in the search warrant for the 2005 raid, there was a paragraph in there where they were talking about there were representatives from T-Mobile had flown out from Washington, and they were outside of my house on numerous occasions intercepting that 2G Edge card. And there was like one time where they like lively like had me like at this time he signed into the ICAM system, and we observed him connect to the IP from the Edge card.
Wow,
Yeah, there was really no way out of it. I mean, there were guys outside of my house. I didn't even know it. Like,
that's crazy.
yeah,
That reminds me. I think like local police can put something. They basically put like a net. It's kind of like a virtual net, right? But they have something like in the air, and it intercepts all cellular communication for like a certain number of blocks. And everyone's cell phone gets really slow, but they intercept it all and they'll proxy it through. It kind of reminds me of something like that.
it's so scary, man. I mean, and that was 2004. I almost think like, geez, what do they do these days? It's I never imagined it back then.
If you run into Snowden docs and like Prism and stuff, they intercept and hijack communication. So
Oh my God, yeah, that's crazy, man. That is very very scary. Before the Snowden stuff, I would have never imagined that was going on.
yeah, it's pretty creative too.
Yeah, yeah.
So once you get arrested, based on the chat logs and stuff, what happens? Is there like is it like a plea deal or something, or how's it go?
Yeah, yeah. So I got raided in May of 2005. I recall so I was raided that time by Secret Service, FBI, and there were also two local police agents, police officers there. One of the agents said to me very directly, he's like, "Cameron, you are going to be prosecuted. Like you need to like use your head. You are most likely going to jail for this. And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, it's saying this to a 16-year-old kid. Like, I didn't really even know what he was talking about. I'm like, yeah, right. Been here twice before, man. I'm still out. So undeterred, the same thing happened like before. I, went to a friend's house, got another laptop, went right back online. I don't believe I was messing around with AOL like at that point. I think it was more like just talking to people, and I don't know, because of my time was very very limited. I mean, this was May, and I went to court like I think it was like July 6th. So you got like 2 months while I'm out before I'm actually in a cell. So I mean, this is how bad I was, though. I mean, I'll this is here's a side story too. So I get rated in May. I'm still talking to associates. We're going on teleconferences late. I'm participating in social engineering. People calling out. I'm doing shit too. So one of my hacker friends, he has a cell phone through this prepaid card company, a prepaid cell phone company rather, and he had already social engineered their logins. So, and he basically had a free phone from them. So this company, they find out that this phone is fraudulent, and they shut his phone off. So this is like, I think it's around like June 20th. Now again, I went to court July 6th. So it's like June 20th, right? So we're on the teleconference. He three ways the prepaid phone company, and I'm like, yo, I got this, dude. I got this. Let me talk to him. So rep comes on the phone. I say right away, I'm like, hey, whatever. My name's Mitchell, calling from Altel Wireless's main office. And I said the same spiel and explained to him, that there's a cell phone that was inadvertently shut off. We'd like to get the phone reactivated again. Sounds like he's with it. I give him the phone number. He says, wait a moment. Says, I have to put you on hold. I remember being placed on hold. We're all now the music's going in the background. We're all talking. I'm like, damn, I don't know what's going on. I don't know if he's going to do this. So the supervisor comes on the line. I believe it was a woman, if I remember correctly, and she said that this phone was engaged in fraudulent activities when we will not reactivate it. And I said, listen, you're going to reactivate it or I'm going to take down your entire system. She said, it can't be done. It can't be done. You don't know what you're talking about. You're not getting this phone turned on. I'm like, are you sure? I said, are you sure? She's like, we're not doing it. She didn't hang up on us. I think we just hung up. We're like, this ain't going to go anywhere. So I go over to IRC. I go into my friend's bot room. It wasn't mine. It was my friend's bots that I'm using at this point. And I DDoSed the web server. I think it got hit with like 30,000 bots. Back then, I mean, that was pretty powerful. There's not too much filtration you got back then. There's a cloud this, cloud that, DDoS protection. So the site drops. And actually, I should be more precise here. I didn't DDoS the actual their website like altel.com. We DDoSed the site that the customer service people used, wham.altel.com. So that, now that shit went down. Now nobody's getting help. So anyway, so some people's phone calls are being recorded. My call was being recorded. Basically, what happens at this point? This is like the end of June. My court date's coming up, and they got this call. Now the feds have another crime. Altogether. Like, oh, geez, he's about to go to court. So I should backtrack. I hate doing this, but it's been many years. My actual court date was like June 28th. I believe that's or June 30th. And what happened was I DDoSed this website and the court date ends up getting pushed back. My lawyer calls my dad. He says something like, hey, they're rescheduling his arraignment. Get pushed back to July 6th. They said that they've got some new information and it's going to be like another, whatever. It's going to be held then. So I don't know. My dad tells me, and I'm like, all right, what new information? I don't think it's that because that just happened like 2 days ago. Yeah. So July 6th, I go with my grandparents, my dad. I go up to the federal court in Boston, meet the lawyer, go into the courtroom. Actually, before I went in the courtroom, I went to talk to probation pretrial, and that did like a little intake with them. And I remember the guy is saying straight up, he's like, I don't think you're going to jail, man. Not at least not today. I think they're just going to give you a bracelet or something like that. I'm like, all right, well, that's kind of cool. At least like I'm going home. Go over to the courtroom. All rise. Judge comes out. Everybody stands up. We all be seated, sit down. U.S. attorney gets up there. It's actually the same U.S. attorney that was involved with the whole Aaron Swartz thing. The guy that from MIT that unfortunately, he committed suicide Same prosecutor. Guy got up there and made me sound like I was a murderer. He went up, just a murderer behind a keyboard, almost. That's how I felt. So he gets up. There's another U.S. attorney too. They take turns, talking about me, saying that I'm undeterred, that I basically keep going, and that my house has been raided 3 times in like a year and a half period, and I haven't stopped, and it's the same thing. And they said that they received information from the Eastern District of Arkansas that they were going to pursue charges because of a denial of service. And so my family's they're sitting behind me. They're all like, "What the hell is this? Like, what happened?" So the judge asked what the evidence was, that I had carried out this attack. And they played the tape of me threatening the supervisor, saying that I'm going to take down everything. And I tried to change my voice on the phone to sound like a girl, but I mean, I guess maybe it was pretty obvious it was me. I tried to like make my voice high pitched or something like that, but didn't take much. They played that thing. They said that I just committed another act, that I knew I was going to court and I did something again. And what kind of like threw it overboard, like even with that, I think I still would have got a bracelet. What actually got me locked up was when I was raided for the AOL thing, when they came to my house in 2004, when I took the Ewoks encryption key. They were just like drilling me with questions, and I panicked out of nervousness. I said, "Oh, I'm gonna kill myself," and I wasn't serious about it. Not something I've ever thought about. I would never do that. So they used that remark from the raid, saying that I was suicidal and that I was going to hurt myself, even though this was like almost a year old. And, it's clearly, it wasn't, I mean, I'm telling you straight up. And I mean, not suicidal, but that's what did it. They said I was a danger to myself. I was a danger to others. I was suicidal, and I was detained pending a psych eval. Went right to jail. Man, didn't think that was going to happen, but that was yeah, that was not a pleasant experience.
So was it like juvie?
Yeah, I mean, I was being held as a juvenile, but I was sent to an adult county jail that had this one unit that was segregated for like the most dangerous juveniles in Massachusetts. Like it was messed up.
So when you're there interacting with folks that are they're not in there for like computer stuff, like how'd that go?
I was detained for like 12 days, and the best of my recollection is I recall like a lot of people, of course, asking me like what I did, and I said computer hacking, and some people didn't believe me, but I had the papers and I showed them, and then it would go around like, "Oh, this kid's mad smart, man! Like, oh, he's a freaking hacker, blah blah blah." And I didn't have any issues. I didn't have any fights or anything, but I will tell you that I was deep down, I was definitely uncomfortable. I was afraid. And all the people in there were primarily in for shootings, stabbings, and several of them told me murder, for killing people. And here I am. I'm like everybody, even the staff to a counselor there, everybody said like, "I can't believe you're in here. Like this doesn't make sense." Because like just the, the variance in crime severity. Like, of course, like what I did on the computer was bad, but like nobody was hurt. Now looking back, of course it was a dozen federal crimes. Of course it was significant. I think I deserved to be arrested and prosecuted and thrown in jail, even that particular time. But I don't think it was right to put me around people like that, though. Just because, granted, it was only 12 days before I was out on pretrial release with a bracelet. But had I been there for 6 months, I don't know. I don't know if I would have had fights or whatever.
Right. So you're in jail for a while, and then what's the process? Like, when do you? Is it like a trial or like a plea deal, or how's that work?
Yeah, it was a plea deal. So I'm in the county jail for 12 days. Again, it's a juvenile unit. I get out. So this is July 2005.
Wait, that you get out because the psych eval, and they say you're not suicidal, or
Yeah, I should have said that. Yeah. So there was a woman that came to see me. The court had paid her or whatever. She came to visit. She talked to me, interviewed me. Are you suicidal? And I explained a little bit
I
about.
love life.
Yeah, I mean, it was I mean, I don't think like I even really like buttered it up. I think I was just kind of honest. Like I mean, I obviously wasn't a violent person. I wasn't on medication. I wasn't diagnosed with anything. I told her like, when the agents came and I said I'm gonna kill myself, it was more of like a defensive maneuver. Like I was kind of scared. I just back off. So she wrote a recommendation, which was filed with the court, and yeah, I was brought back in, and they released me, saying, okay, he's not suicidal. Not without very strict, restrictions though. No computers. I could not use any cell phones. I could only use a landline cell phone if I was being supervised by my dad or somebody that had custody, like my grandparents. Um,
How'd that feel?
oh, it was hell. It was tough. So I wasn't even allowed to live at my house. I was on bail, and they said I could only go to my grandparents' house because they felt that I had too many friends in the area where I lived at before, where they could just bring me a computer and I would just do it again. So in a
And your
sense,
grandparents didn't have any technology?
no, no, I think my grandfather had a computer, but he had to take it out of the house or something like that. He had he did have AOL and he had dial up. Yeah, he did take it out. Now that I think about it, he did take it out of the house. I think he gave it to my dad or something like that while I was just out there. But I couldn't go outside. I mean, it was on a bracelet. I could just go in the backyard. It wasn't like a GPS where I could kind of go out and be monitored. I was like home confinement or house arrest. So it was pretty tough.
So, I mean, that's like withdrawal, right? I mean, I think I remember, like, when I was making programs and stuff, I went to like the summer camp,
Hmm.
and it was like for a month, and it was like the worst month of my life because I had no computers for a month. I was like making programs in my head. I was going out of my mind.
Yeah, total detox, man. Of course, I was happy to be free somewhat, but yeah, I think to be completely transparent, I think if I did have if somebody gave me a phone or a computer, yeah, absolutely, I probably would have engaged in something or reached out to some people and got myself in further trouble. Yeah, just kid stuff. I don't know how to say it.
Right. So then, once you so your grandparents' house with the bracelet, and then what's the next step in it?
So of course, case is still pending. It's got to get resolved. My I didn't do any direct talking with my lawyer because I couldn't use phones. So it was, obviously my dad. I'm a juvenile. At some point he came by and explained like, hey, we got to go meet with the prosecutor in Boston. They gave me a date. I think it was like the end of July or early August, where I just remember going into the court, and instead of going to the courtroom, went in an elevator, went up to some conference room, sitting in there, and two of the agents that had raided my house were in there, and both of the U.S. attorneys were there. My grandparents were there. My dad was there, and I don't recall doing much talking at all, except for just signing the plea agreement. But it was essentially what they said was that they found there was a juvenile detention center in Maine that had a rehabilitative program made for kids that they screw up multiple times, and they wanted to ask the court that I get sent there because they felt it was more like a treatment facility versus a jail. Although it was a definitely it was a, it was. I mean, it had a fence, you couldn't leave. So it was 11. The offer was 11 months and 2 years of supervised release. I signed the plea agreement. I have no idea what's in there. I don't. I didn't understand any of it. I just was thinking about, damn, 11 months is a long time. And I recall my lawyer, like, after the meeting wasn't long. I think maybe like an hour or something like that. I remember talking to my lawyer about it rather, and saying like, that's almost a year, man. Like, he's like, listen to me. What you did, like, you should be getting like 5 or 6 years. He's like, just this is not something you want to argue about or refuse. Like, I'm telling you, just so I'm like, well, I was in for 12 days. I guess that's 11 months minus 12 days, 10 and a half months. Oh my gosh. But yeah, it was a very nice deal. And behind the scenes, what was explained to me is my grandmother talked to. So there were two U.S. attorneys. One of them was the one, Stephen Hyman, with the Aaron Swartz case. The same guy. There was another one, Seth Berman, which wasn't in the news too much. I don't know if he was kind of newer at the time, but Seth had gone to Steve Hyman and basically said like, "Yo, this is a kid. Like, I don't think it's good to imprison him for a long time. Like, I think he could probably get treatment and maybe get help." And he convinced Steve Hyman, who's this like super strict U.S. attorney, to like say, "Okay." I think Steve Hyman really wanted to like destroy me in court. Like, would have gave me everything he could have, but this other U.S. attorney had like a little bit of a heart and wanted to be more helpful than hurtful. So yeah, I take this deal. I go in, get sentenced. They gave me a tentative date in September. I think it was like September 8th, I got sentenced, and September 22nd, when I turned myself in. September 22nd, it was a very, very sad day. I, of course, didn't want to go, but had no choice. I remember probation coming to the house, cutting the bracelet off. As soon as he cut that well, actually, I think he took it off. It was an older bracelet where they detach something and it pulls off, but he took it off. Whatever. I kind of felt like, wow, this is a good feeling, but obviously it wasn't a good feeling because within a couple hours, yeah, I wasn't sleeping at a family member's house anymore. So they took the bracelet off. I remember, we all got in the car. Went my grandparents, my dad, stopped at a restaurant along the way. Don't remember what I had. Probably a cheeseburger because I love them. And walked in the front door of the detention center. Gave him my name and stuff, and they gave me a little bit of time. Like it was like an hour sitting in the lobby to just talk to my family and hug, say goodbyes, and kind of basically that. Yeah, that was a very, very tough day for me. It was so saddening just to walk away from your family and like turn around and they're not like walking out. They're just watching me walk through the door. Through the door like clinks open and then it shuts like it's a big steel door going. Once it was shut, I was just like, well, all right, I guess we'll get this started. Just this is a new chapter right here. To just go through it. Don't have a choice.
So what do you do for 11 months when you're there? Like what is like your day to day?
So it was like I mentioned, a juvenile facility. So it's a little different than county jail in the sense where county jail here, I guess, not as supervised too much. Like in the juvenile, you always have a staff member with you. If you walk to medical, you got someone with you, so you're like heavily observed. But one of the things that I picked up in there was weightlifting, going to the gym, shooting hoops now and then. That was something that I took very, very, very seriously. Started doing push-ups like on the regular. Got to a point where I was doing like 1,000 every day. I wish I could still do that, but I can't.
Was that to like buff yourself up in case you got in a fight or something, or just because you wanted to like improve yourself?
I look at it kind of like, well, yeah, it's definitely, yeah. I'm not lying when I say it. It definitely to improve myself. I felt stronger. I felt like just like when you're doing more push-ups than the week prior. It's like you're building on something. You're developing. It's just it is like I don't know. It's good and it's mentally rewarding too. I can't say that when I didn't exercise, I didn't feel good. Now there's a little bit of a connection here. Kind of like if you going into the computer stuff and hacking and challenging and learning and just being curious, that's an adrenaline rush. It's like a dopamine feeling. And working out somewhat as though it wasn't as intense as the computer stuff, it's still kind of similar. It was a rewarding feeling. Although I never was I wasn't on medication for depression or anything back then, but I truly believe like looking back, like in 2005, I was definitely depressed. And I think that exercising was more of like, just kind of like feel good and just, pastime, do something productive, something good instead of just kind of sitting around watching TV like a lot of people did in there. As far as like other things that I did though, I mean, yeah, of course there was a lot of TV. There was watching movies. They had like a boom box with headphones. Sometimes we just listen to the radio for like an hour, writing letters, use the phone. I actually only used the phone like twice a week. It wasn't much. But the program they had at this facility was it was pretty good. I'll say it was privileged based. As you progress through the treatment program, they gave you more privileges. You could stay up later, watch TV later, and it gets to a point where you can actually go outside. So once I was in there for like 6 or 7 months, I was able to go outside of the facility and go like volunteer at a soup kitchen and do things like that. So, I mean, a lot of it was programming too, just taking the classes and such.
Wait, they let you back on a computer?
No, no, I tried when I was in there though.
We said programming. I thought you meant like computer programming.
Sorry, I meant like basically like treatment programming, like classes and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I should have said that because we're what we're talking about here. So I saw a lot of crazy things in there. Again, I'm the only one in the cell block or the unit is what they called it. That's in there for anything like that. A lot of kids in there for fighting, violence, guns, drugs. So yeah, it was crazy. I was again like put in an environment with people that were a little like definitely a little different than I was. Saw a lot of fights. Like I hadn't seen like fights like that. Like prior to going to jail. Like never. So seeing like a kid get beat up by three other kids was something like, whoa, like not something I saw every day. So yeah, it was a little crazy. There were sometimes kids would fight the staff members. They had these big plastic chairs that I used to think they were heavy. Every time I watch TV, I have to grab these things, and I've seen kids just bug out, like pick up the chairs and start throwing them at the staff and stuff. Like it was crazy, man.
So I guess some people just didn't have control of their emotions and stuff. I guess sounds like.
Nah, definitely not. There were a lot of them were on medication too, and of course, even though this is a juvenile facility, they're still doing crazy things. Like there were staff members bringing in drugs for them and stuff like that too. A couple times, people tried to get me to do drugs, and I said no. I didn't want to mess up with mess with anything like that. It was still juvenile, but it was still jail. People still doing stuff. I shouldn't. This is funny too. Talking about computers, they did have computers there, so part of me, you're a kid in jail, you have to go to school. They don't just lock you up and your education stops. It's still obligated to get an education. So of course I get put in classes. I have all the classes like a high school would have. There were teachers from the outside that came in. There was like a science class, there was a gym class, an English class, all those, and they had computers with Wi-Fi. So of course, I'm in the science class, for instance, and there's a memo that gets put out to do not let me use any computers at all, like zero. Do not even let me use one supervised. And seeing other kids on the computers was just like, oh man, like I wish I could just like go over there. I just want to like download some music or off like Napster, because I think Napster was gone by then actually. That was tough. And it was actually the science teacher there. He was really guy was like really really cool guy. He let me use the computer a couple times for some classwork, and I didn't violate that at all. He always told me like, hey, sit in the area that's like away from the window so like people don't see you. Just do the work, man, and whatever. If you get in trouble, I'll tell them I told you to do it. I'm like, okay, cool. So I actually, to be honest with you, I did use computers in there and the internet, but it was I didn't want to mess that up. Here's this teacher like let me do that, but it still felt kind of cool. Being able to use Google while you're in jail, although it's it wasn't anything malicious.
Interesting. So you once you got out, had you graduated at that point?
Yeah, while I was there, I actually I ended up taking a GED class while I was there. I ended up getting taken out of all the school once I got that. So yeah, when I got out, it was great. I at least went in and got that. I was exercising a little bit, so I kind of felt good. I'm trying to remember when I got out. It was August 2006. I didn't last long. I was out like 4 or 5 months and went right back in. Not so much the same stuff that I was doing back then. Like it wasn't so much about like AOL and like pranking and stuff like that. It was more about like we had a financial thing, like a credit card and buying things and buying clothes and just basically that. So yeah, I got out of jail. Just to put a long story short, I got out. Started talking to people online again that I hadn't gone to jail, and got credit cards and got my own computer again, got my own phone, and started dealing with actually using cloned physical credit cards inside of stores. That got kind of nutty.
Yeah, I think with that there's like yeah, there's the cloning and then so you actually went in and did the purchases yourself. And from what I was reading, it looked like it was just bad luck how you got caught.
Yeah. There was the one that's online that pertains to like the thing with me and my cousin. That was a little later. Unfortunately, like I've had too many times going in and out. Like sometimes I even forget like so many things. But I got out in '06 and basically like went on a credit card fraud thing. Went into a Stop and Shop to go buy a gift card and basically got surrounded by detectives saying like, "What are you doing with these gift cards?" And ended up getting sent back. And then so I get sent back. So I get out August. I'm out until I think it was like January, and I get sent right back in for 9 months on a violation. Got back out I think October. So this is like October of '07. So I'm out, start doing the same thing again. Actually the thing that you had read online, the thing with my cousin where we were going into the store and all that. So I had another same thing. April 2008, get raided by the state police. They kick the door in and stuff. Go upstairs, find credit cards everywhere, laptops, Wi-Fi antennas, SIM cards, cell phones, get everything. Then it's same thing again, right back in, and geez, it's such a long story.
So that happens, but then in 2013, it's not credit cards, right? There's like the Twitter stuff, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it changed up a little bit. Yeah, I'll be. Basically what happened. So I go in for this violation. I get out June of 2011. Didn't take long. Got right back into the same thing. I just come home. I'm an adult now. I'm actually not living at home with my parents. Like, I need to get myself situated. I got a job as a dishwasher, so I'm doing that. But on the side, I'm doing the credit card fraud, so I kind of can get myself together and get myself a little car and start to get buy clothes and all this stuff. So you go into like 2012. 2012 was a really like crazy year. Like I'll say like sometime I don't even know how I'm alive at this point. But 2012 was pretty insane where I started using substances and started experimenting with things. 2012 there was like that's when the whole synthetic marijuana thing came up and came out and everyone was smoking that stuff. It's supposed to be like a synthetic analog related to marijuana, but it's a little different. I don't want to get like too overboard, but basically like I started using drugs, opiates and other things too. And kind of like I want to say it definitely like fueled the crimes that came later. And talking when we're talking about like Twitter and accessing the state police and stuff like that. More so because like when I'm under the influence, I really wasn't thinking too much about like anything. It was just like you kind of feel invincible. Anything that alters your mind state's gonna make you feel a little like less anxious. You're not so much thinking about getting caught all the time. Especially if you're high. But yeah, 2012 was really like a whole year full of partying, going to the club, hitting the bar like every. I mean, we were going out like every weekend, doing credit card fraud, just going like really crazy with stuff. And at the end of 2012, I got paranoid from using so many substances, mainly like stimulants, and started thinking like people were following me, and that actually sent me off on a whole thing to say like, you know what, I'm going to use my skills to find out if I am really paranoid or I'm right. I want to know if somebody's following me. So, yeah, I, set up a little mission like, okay, I'm going to get into the police. Like, I'm going to figure this shit out instead of like being nervous every day. So, just to put it as brief as I can, went online, did a little bit of research. I mean, this is all like stuff that I found on Google. I'm like reading about like I couldn't even realize like why this stuff's out there, but I did a bunch of Google searches for like Massachusetts State Police, this, and found documents that were published that talk about the exact name of the tool that the cops would use to search for warrants and stuff like that. So just doing Google searches, and then I find some domains that are connected to like the Criminal History Board and grabbed the IP from their public facing site, did some IP scanning, and then at some point I ended up finding login pages to this tool. Like there was one to search inmates that were in state custody. There was one for looking up warrants. There's one for there's like a central repository for every incident report filed in the entire state related to like police stuff. Like I don't know, like disturbance calls or informants giving information. Like all this was on this one site. IP scan it, I find it, I actually guess a login. I literally like guessed the password to someone that had access to the system, the state police system. I'll tell you, like, man, that was probably like, I don't know, like, I think for the first time in my life, like that moment in 2012, like when I was trying to get into the state police and I'm at the login screen and the guy, this is funny. The password to this account that I got was the same as the username. Like when I signed in,
Just like T-Mobile.
yeah, exactly, same thing. And it just baffles me. And the person's login that I had it didn't belong to a member of law enforcement. So the state police's tools, they didn't. It's not an internal tool. They didn't have their own people create it. They outsourced. It was a third party company. So the login that I got was like read and write access to everything in this tool. So and this was one of the like programmers. So basically, like, they make this system and then they give it to the state police, and then this programmer's login is still valid, which didn't make much sense to me because, like, the stuff. I mean, everything was in there, man. Like, I could designate a person as a sex offender. I could undesignate them. Like, I mean, everything. I could see warrants as they came out live. Like, I mean, this is serious stuff. But the moment that I got in there, like when I typed that password in and I clicked the login button and I saw it say, like, basically the login was successful. It had like a drop down box and it said select the role that you're in. And you click this box and it just got a list of every agency, because this guy was one of the programmers. He's got access to be different access levels, and I could pick anything. But when I saw that screen, I was just like, holy shit. Like, I just like froze for a second. I'm thinking, like, this is bad. Like, this is sensitive. Like, I'm just sitting at that screen looking at it, thinking to myself in the back of my head, like, man, this is definitely going to get investigated. Like, I know this is hot stuff. Like, if anybody finds out I'm in this, like, someone's going to be on my line. Someone's going to be on them when they realize this was breached. Luckily, I mean, I was using a 4G wireless card. I wasn't connecting from my home. I was kind of beyond that stupidity. I wasn't doing that anymore. So I did feel a little bit, smarter. I used the system to basically, like, check up on myself. What I would do was, like, I wouldn't go in there and search for my own name. Like, I wouldn't click on warrants and go to the advanced search and put in my first name and last name, because from what I've been through, I already know, like, that's going to be logged. So I would go in there and just pull up a master list of the warrants and just, do control F, like copy it over to Notepad and control F, look at my last name. Okay, I'm not in there. Nobody wants me. That's good. But yeah, I had access to that tool for like several months, and there was actually nobody knew about it. Like, nobody was tipped off by me signing into that account or anything. And I lost access to it because the whole system got revamped, moved over to like a single sign-on, where I think it was like IP only or something like that. Like, they had to be on a certain IP range because all the cops have like Wi-Fi cards, and I could no longer access it. But it wasn't because of the breach; it was mainly because, like I said, they switched it. So this is 2012, going into 2013. I'm gonna be a little more specific here. So February of 13. Yeah, that was a crazy month, all in like the time span of 1 month, probably in the wrong order. But so in February, my granddad had died on my mother's side. For people that don't know, my mother had died when I was 5. So I primarily was, raised by my dad, who unfortunately wasn't home too much because he had to work and stuff. So I kind of grew up with like no supervision and no guidance. So, anyway, losing my mom, that's something I think that affected me for a very long time. And then knowing that my grandfather on my mother's side was gone, I kind of felt like, oh geez, like I lost another part of my mom that was here. So that was really, really hard for me. I remember, getting the news on the phone, and I was just like, man, I cried. That was tough. So, I deal with that. I'm like, obviously life goes on. I'm not gonna do anything stupid. And the next thing that happens is my dog. I had a golden retriever that had since I was a kid. I mean, this dog went through everything, man. He was there for all 3 raids when the feds came. My dog was there the whole way. Like, I love this dog. He's the best dog in the world. And he ended up getting cancer, and we had to put him down. And there wasn't that many people or that I felt too close to. I mean, like I just mentioned, my mother's been dead. I've been in and out of jail. Like, there's nobody really close to me. But my dog was, there's unconditional love. I don't know. My dog felt like a member of the family. So losing him, that was like the second thing that kind of was a little devastating in my month. Third thing that happened was, again, February at some point. We had a really big snowstorm, and I lost power at my house. However, I decided to go outside and go to my friend's house that was like 10 blocks up the street, who had power, because why would I do that in a snowstorm, right? Because I need to charge my computer. I need to be online. I just I couldn't deal with not being online. So I go travel to my friends and charge my batteries over there. There for, I don't know, a couple hours, and then I go back home, park the car. It's still snowing. I actually got stuck, but the front wheel drive, I was able to get out of it, so I made it home in one piece. But walking into my house, we entered through the back door. First thing I noticed that was weird was the back door was left open. Nobody leaves that door open, so I'm like, oh, that's weird. Maybe somebody didn't shut the door. So I go in, I shut this door. So I'm walking up to the second floor where I live. The stairs are like really, really wet. I'm like, what the F? Like, what the F, man? This is crazy. Like, I could slip and fall. So I'm going up there and I get to my door. I have my key in my hand and the door is broken. I'm like, oh, oh God, no. Like, so I just push the door open. I go in there and I'm looking around and there is stuff everywhere. Stuff from the kitchen, like groceries, canned food, like everything's all on the floor. I immediately go into my bedroom where I have a safe with some money in it, and that whole safe is gone. I'm like, no, what the heck is going on? There was some jewelry I had that was gone. So house got robbed. Now at this point, I call my friend whose house I just went to, and I'm talking to him. I'm like, dude, I don't know what the hell's going on. Like, someone just broke into my house. I don't even feel safe here. He's like, what? Are you serious? So I'm trying to figure out what to do. And thankfully, I had my computer with me, because if that computer was there, I would have been asked out. I would have lost everything that I was, doing, all that bad stuff. Although I kind of wish it was taken, because if it was taken, I might not have gotten in trouble. But so I ended up going to my parents' house for a little bit. I stayed there because I didn't feel safe at home. In between everything, I'm talking to my landlord. I'm like, I don't feel safe going back there. So here's where Twitter comes in.
Next time on AOL Underground.
Crazy thing is, it's the day that I defaced the Burger King Twitter feed was the anniversary of the Paris Hilton thing, and it just kind of like lined up with that. Very weird, very, very strange, because the same exact behavior on like the same date, it's kind of scary in a sense too.